want to talk about secure chatbots for employees. This is a presentation that we've been working on for a webinar we have on this Thursday that we're going to walk through, and we'll also walk through a comparison chart on the differences we have. What we continue to see is that the companies in general are no longer able to have CEOs who aren't familiar with AI and understand the impact on business. And we continue to assert that it'll be very hard for many companies to leave 2025 without having some type of secure AI chatbot for productivity for some portion of employees. 10, 20%, maybe more than that here. Certainly, many employees are using this in the side for shadow IT, but increasingly companies really are getting serious about this here. The vast majority of companies, as you know, use Microsoft for their productivity applications with M365. So the real choice for many of them are, do I stay with the Microsoft Copilot options, which are confusing, or do I look at other options, one of which is the OpenAI ChatGPT Enterprise, which we'll talk about here, and we'll break these down here. Key takeaways, there are many trade-offs. Microsoft Copilot is not one product, it's multiple products. There's over 25 or 30 different products, so it's one of the ways it gets somewhat confusing here. Some of them have different licensing costs, which also adds to the confusion here. So when someone says Microsoft Copilot, you need to ask them to be a little more precise on what you're doing. It also includes both the standalone Copilot, which is like the ChatGPT that we're all familiar with, but also in-app features, so in-app assistance, and we'll show you examples of that. Trade-off certainly around features. OpenAI doesn't have in-app features. It also has things that Copilot doesn't have. It's another vendor for IT to manage if you're going away from the Microsoft stack. There is adoption impact that you need to think through if it's going to impact your organization or not. And the cost are differences. The costs really are different. But skip through this. You guys all know this. Let's stay in the basics here. Here we're talking about using Gen AI for personal employee productivity improvement. We're not talking about putting it inside a process where many people are using it. And we're not talking about putting it into a product itself. For business cases, John, you want to talk a little bit about this here? We see a lot of real critical reasons for companies to invest in this beyond just ripping cost off and firing people. And these are 4 that we're seeing out there.
Yes, for sure. This notion of employee retention and recruitment, the better talent in organizations is living by the fact of I need these tools to progress, to learn, and it's certainly true. We saw it in a number of places, including Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, which we've talked about before in this learning lab, is that you see a number of folks who are in the data analytics capability in organizations, and when they get the opportunity to use these new tools and models and get new access to data and capability, you really can enliven what might have been a more stale and kind of staid organization. And so that ability to take that small team and really make them productive is fantastic. In addition, you think about onboarding anyone, whether it's into a call center, into an HR function, so forth. This is the new tool. And so whether it's at the top end of the talent, actually running the models, making them better, or anywhere in the organization, we're seeing that kind of capability. Customer perception, absolutely. A lot of customers we've talked to are getting questions from their customers. How are you going to use AI? Whether it's a law firm or an engineering firm, Paul and I were talking to, they're getting calls from the big customers saying, "Hey, I know AI is going to help you. What's it going to mean to me?" And then financial performance, no question. Cost reduction, revenue growth. The ability to scale. You have a different kind of scaling. I was a senior executive at a couple of different large people organizations, and the amount of risk you take on when you have to scale up, cognitive capacity in humans is massive, and the time to value is big. With these tools, you can actually change that because your scalability changes radically, which makes for a much better business. And then investor appeal, no question that investors are starting to think through, whether it's private equity investors or public investors, who are going to be the people who are going to drive a new cost-based, innovation-based, and talent-based using AI.
Yeah. One of the things that people have lived through the sustainability CSR may remember 15, 20 years ago, that when the CSR reports started first coming out, only 5 or 10% of companies had them. And one of the reasons they started taking off was that new college recruits were starting to look at, particularly tech companies, saying, I'm going to join EMC, and EMC doesn't have a CSR report. So that kind of visibility of what the new what the college kids were using at, so high visibility into sustainability issues going in the workforce. And we're seeing that same thing right now, where many companies or colleges are embracing this, and they're leaving that and they're going to a workforce that doesn't have secure access to it. So we see a lot of reasons to support a program on this. Obviously, lots and lots of different use cases out there. It's almost overwhelming at one level here. Again, real basically, they're supposed to stand alone and in app. And for folks who apologize, it's a little small. So like the left one for Microsoft, that's a Copilot. There's a free version of that, but also they have in-app. So here in Outlook, it'll pop up different ways. Here in Excel, in the bottom right, same thing in PowerPoint and everything else. So part of the Microsoft offering, the incremental pricing, is that you're getting additional functionality, almost like a super spell check type of feature into the productivity apps that you don't with OpenAI. We're a lot
And
of time
and Paul,
building
just
this because
what
we, yeah,
Paul, just one comment on that, back on that last slide. And
yeah,
like with Snowflake or Salesforce or any of these other products where they're integrating the LLMs into the applications. For example, Copilot in Excel was almost useless when it first came out, and now it has a full Python code interpreter embedded into Excel that can do functions for you. So we should expect that people will continue to use the same tools, but they'll continue to get better over time.
right. And I think for obviously a lot of companies here, this is not a decision you're thinking about for this even calendar year. This is a 3 to 5 year type of a technology choice you're making for your employee base here. So you need to think thoughtfully, but also understand where the vendor's roadmap is going. We've spent quite a bit of time building this spreadsheet comparison, which we didn't shock that it didn't exist, but it does exist now. But let me first just walk across the top so people at least understand the options. And for each of the major vendors, we have both the consumer options and the kind of enterprise or B2B options. So for OpenAI, we obviously have the free version, and there's the paid version. That's the plus for $20 a month, or the pro for $200 a month. And then for companies, and company, what this means is additional set of administrative features that allow corporate IT to administer users, to monitor log files, to turn features on and off, to have additional set of features here. OpenAI has both something called OpenAI ChatGPT Teams and then ChatGPT Enterprise. And the enterprise, which we focus today, runs about 600, well, the retail is $660 a month or $720 a year per employee, just for the license. And then in the Microsoft world, we have on the consumer side or the personal use side, Copilot, that's the standalone one, that's equivalent to the free version of ChatGPT. Copilot Pro, that's a $20 a month, so a little more advanced reasoning, more advanced AI capabilities. And then for companies, what we call team or enterprise, they have Copilot for Microsoft 365. So this is an additional license that companies pay for to give that specific user these AI capabilities, both standalone and within their applications. And other capabilities around something called Copilot Studio, which we'll talk about a little bit here, and Teams Premium. There's also other options out there you may have heard of. Perplexity also has on the consumer side a free version and a pro version of $20 a month. You're seeing a pattern there. Perplexity also has an Enterprise Pro version where you can give Perplexity to a subset of your employees. That's $40 a month or $400 a year. Claude, in similar vein, has both a consumer version that's free and a consumer version that's called Pro, that's $20 a month. Anthropic, which is the name of the company, company. Claude is the name of their product suite. Has Claude Teams and Claude Enterprise, which mirrors the OpenAI. And Gemini, excuse me, Gemini is the LLM name that Google's been using. They have Google or Gemini Basic, that's for personal use, and for people who already use, we use internally here Workspace, Google Workspace. They have Gemini for Workspace, which is equivalent for Microsoft 365. So let me just pause there. If there are any questions just on the high level products.
I was curious, which models are they? Well, I guess that's kind of, never mind. Never mind. I'm thinking about something else. Never mind.
Yeah, it does get confusing, Raymond. I know Perplexity uses multiple models, and sometimes you can actually go through and choose which models you want. OpenAI obviously has their models, O1 and 4. Microsoft uses the OpenAI models. My understanding it's a separate version of it. Although I did hear Ted Shelton on Inflection saying they're also using some of Inflection's code now in the Copilot. So I'm not exactly sure if there's also some innovation going on in that realm as well. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
I just wanted to ask if that spreadsheet was going to be made available, or how to kind of, or if it was more kind of an internal thing.
Yeah, it's yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you attend our webinar on Thursday, we will send you a link to the to the webinar. If you want it tonight, I'll send it to you. Just know it's a draft and it's still going to be cleaned up a little bit. OpenAI is reviewing it today, and we've got a few other people reviewing it. But appreciate any feedback and we do want to make this available. It's not some kind of proprietary thing we have.
It's worth noting. I was just going to say, it's worth noting that you can see in real time what's going on with Gemini there on the right, just like Adam was talking about Excel and what Excel can do. This is the equivalent, right, of Sheets. And so right there with Gemini on the right, you've got that sort of built-in, similar to Microsoft Office.
And one of the things I want to highlight on Google that I've yet to see out of the box for Microsoft, and maybe Adam will correct me, is that in OpenAI, they have something called GPTs, which are this mini kind of RAG thing where you can create yourself. You can also share it with different people. And they call that GPTs. The equivalent of that in the Google world is called GEMS, GEMS, which is similar type things here. We've had a handful of customers talk to us about when we have multiple employees working on some type of shared GPT in the Microsoft world, what is that called? And my understanding right now is that it's not out of the box, but it can be built in the Microsoft world with this studio. Is that correct, Adam? The Copilot Studio? You may have lost Adam.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So the the closest equivalent is the Copilot Studio to the custom GPTs of the GEMs.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Go ahead, Joyce, and then Lucinda.
Sure. Thank you for this. I got a question. So in terms of product model upgrades, is there a delay, like in terms of access to the best model if people have the Microsoft side, even though at the end of the day, it's still supported by that IP with OpenAI?
My understanding is that there is maybe a small delay, but in general, they have at least 4.0 as being what's in a Copilot today, is my understanding.
Got it.
I think there's a major delay. Now, I don't know about the O1 model that just came out, which is the most advanced OpenAI model. I don't know what that equivalent is in the Microsoft world. They have the $200 a month Pro at OpenAI. I don't know. I'm not aware of that equivalent capability in the Microsoft Copilot.
Yeah, in the Microsoft world, when you want to get into more advanced model selection, then you start using what's now called the Foundry, which used to be called the OpenAI Studio. And that's where you're actually just building your own solutions and then choosing which model you want to connect to on the back end. So it's more of an API-driven capability at that point.
That's on Azure, right? I saw the
Yeah,
Azure.
that's right. That's in
Okay.
Azure.
Got it, got it. And then just last question, like I'm confused, I'm curious, like how would the salespeople on both sides to make the case for, customers to buy their product versus, Microsoft versus OpenAI, OpenAI versus Microsoft, because if they are using similar products, then you can get access to similar products on both sides with very different price points and customer service availability, I guess. How would they make their cases?
Well,
Like,
one easy way to do that is a Microsoft is half the price per user than OpenAI's ChatGPT Enterprise.
yeah, so that would make OpenAI's team, sales team work life really hard, right? Other than the equity options of OpenAI stocks. It's very hard for them to make sales. That's an inherent conflict of interest that may
I
lead
think
to
it's
in the future, like not sharing the best and most powerful, models.
well, no, and I think that even for me, it's been an interesting exercise. Just 3 years from now, push out 3 years from now, what will 90% of the employees be using for the secure chatbot technology? And I think it's a slam dunk. It's going to be Microsoft. If you're a Microsoft shop, it's probably going to be Google. If you're a Google shop, you're a 10% of company there. And OpenAI may well be a B2C or a OEM because distribution really, really counts here. And the pricing is half price. And I was telling someone for the last week, I've been every time I want to use a large language model, I start with Copilot, which was horrible a year ago. It's not bad now. And many times it's good enough. So things that wowed me a year ago, create a press release draft, outline a way to do a marketing plan works perfectly well now. And so I think the uh, Copilot offering, at least in my view, is good enough for the vast majority of knowledge workers' tasks in the next 3 years. And oh, by the way, those knowledge workers are just starting on their journey using these tools. They're where you guys were a year ago. So I think
Paul, if I can just add to that, Joyce, I think the answer is in a Microsoft shop, meaning a company that's embedded in the Microsoft ecosystem, OpenAI can't compete. They really can't. I think they're offering an enterprise solution so that they can try and eat into the Gemini business, the Perplexity business, the Anthropic business. I think they know that against the Copilot in the Microsoft business, they can't get it, but they want to have an offering so they can be competitive more broadly in the market.
Yeah, my guess is they'll go after small and medium businesses that aren't that established with Microsoft. So there's still plenty of places where Microsoft isn't the go-to provider. But I agree, where Microsoft is the go-to provider, or Google for that matter, they're going to win 99% of the time. We have Copilot, which I've been involved with from the beginning, and it was really crappy, and it is better. And by the way, what people forget is when you get the whole Copilot thing, you also get Edge with ChatGPT 4.0 built into it. And so you have a pretty good chat bot as well built into your browser, which I think, as far as I can tell at my current place at Manat, that is 99% of the use. Or at least probably but let's say more than half of it, because you can do anything there. It's secure. You can put confidential data in there. So if you have a PDF and you want a summary of it and the typical things that you do, you can use that enterprise chat function, and it's pretty decent because it's chat 4.0. I do not know that we'll have access to one. I'll ask my buddies in IT if we get any. I doubt we get. I think Adam's probably right. And Adam, is there a charge for using Foundry, or is it just the API key charges? Do you know?
Yeah, no, there's no charge for using Foundry. It's Azure consumed revenue. So you pay for the API and then you pay for the utilization of the compute.
Pay for the usage. Right. Okay.
So let's, we got 4 hands up. Let's go Lucinda and then to Calvin. Go ahead, Lucinda.
Yeah,
Then Jane.
so first of all, these are super helpful because, yeah, you read about all this stuff and just to see it here in tabular form is great. So, and I agree with the thoughts that people had, like if you're a Microsoft house, you're going to want to use this stuff. If you're a Google house, and you're going to want to use the Google stuff. So, but one thing here is I wanted to just get a clarification. This is really about kind of the office type functionalities of spreadsheets, Word, mail, et cetera, like that, right? There's a whole other thing that's maybe kind of in between databases and the kind of office-y type things, and that's SharePoint, where organizations are keeping large numbers of their documents, or Google Drive, right? So, does this, and I can't read it because the printing is so small, does this also deal with some of the, more organizational aspects of document management? Or
We didn't look at that, Lucinda, yet. It's a great point. It's a good question. Didn't look at it so much. We're looking at just general employee use at this particular.
yeah. I mean, the thing is that a lot of stuff is on people's computers anyway, right? It's like, it's not people. Yeah. I mean, from what I've found is that people may sign up for SharePoint, but I don't know. I haven't found that a lot of people are using it to, again, small data set, but thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Calvin, then we'll go Jane.
Yeah, just really quick. I know, like with the spreadsheet, there's a lot of different LLMs. The event on Thursday is really between OpenAI and Microsoft. So I was wondering why the decision was made to kind of compare for Thursday, like OpenAI and Microsoft, because I also agree that it seems like that comparison is hard versus like maybe OpenAI and Anthropic, which seems like it's a little bit more, in my opinion, like there's more crossover there. So just curious about that.
Yeah. Great question. Only because we've had 3 customers, CIOs, tell us that there's only 2 choices. They either go to Microsoft or they're going to go with OpenAI because that's all the executives want, OpenAI, because they've been using it. And they aren't even looking outside those 2 choices. So I think there's such a stranglehold in some companies that Microsoft, that the CIO is saying his foot down. And the 3 that I know aware of, they're really struggling with, boy, we have so much familiarity with OpenAI in the broader executive suite and with kids being used at home, but we don't know we wanted it. The second one is that in one situation, they rolled out the in-app Copilot very quickly, and a lot of users hated it because the in-app part of OpenAI is very intrusive. It's like Grammarly. It's always chatting at you. And people are saying, I don't want this. AI is annoying. I hate Copilot. So they actually were fighting a lot of resistance internally from that initial 100 users of Microsoft Copilot. So that those are the rationale for those 2 choices. Yeah. Go ahead, Jane, and then Cheryl. Jane, thanks for raising your hand. Jane, are you mute?
Yes, sorry about that. Can you hear me good enough?
Yeah.
We
How's
can.
my audio? Okay, yeah, thanks for inviting me to this. My question is that OpenAI is already integrated with Microsoft and Apple. Both of those companies are using their frameworks. So in a sense, OpenAI is part of Copilot now, and that's probably why Copilot improved so much. So as far as OpenAI versus Microsoft, I see Microsoft as being a winner in the office setting and corporate setting, whereas Apple seems to be more in the creative fields and schools for children and things like that. So I kind of see OpenAI, Apple, and Microsoft all benefiting from each other. And in the end, OpenAI maybe wants to stay more on a personal level with people so they can set up, like for entrepreneurs or whatever, and they want to set up their own thing. But I just wanted to throw that out there and get an opinion on that.
No, it's great. Yeah, Jay, I think at least for now, I think one big open question is in 5 years from now, will Microsoft still be using OpenAI large language models? I mean, they've already said they hired half their entire team from Inflection. They're building their own models, and I think long term, it's unclear if those companies will be friends or foe 5 years from now. But certainly right now, everyone's benefiting in that sense. But the thing we're really on this call, we're really focusing on a company with 5,000 employees. You're the CIO. Are you signing a contract with Microsoft, give this capability, or are you signing a contract with OpenAI? John and I both do work with Harvard Business School, and Harvard Business School signed a contract with OpenAI. So we both have access to OpenAI, ChatGPT Enterprise. And when we use Microsoft at Harvard Business School right now, it's a standard Microsoft without the Copilot. Although just this past week, I saw a note, it looks like they are now starting to roll out Copilot as well here. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to end up buying both those capabilities. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Yeah,
And then
thanks, guys. This is good stuff. I work with a lot of corporations that have a lot of PDFs. I mean, hundreds of thousands. And one of the challenges over the years with some older AI technology has been the tables. And, so we started running those through different AI models. And quite frankly, I'm truly disappointed with Microsoft's ability to handle PDF tables. One day I happened to be sitting in my Adobe AI for another reason, and I ran it through the table in Firefly, and it came out absolutely perfect. And so it seems a little odd that, in the sense, okay, Adobe's got PDF, but except, it just smoked. It wasn't even comparable to what Excel was doing with it. So, if anybody out there's got any experience with those tables that are embedded in PDF documents, not Excel documents, but static tables coming out of a PDF, that would be, I'd really love some insights because.
And Cheryl, I'm going to clear. You're talking about a table that was converted into it, not an image.
Yeah, I'm talking about an image. So you got a PDF, it could be a static image. I'll just make it clear. It's a contract. It's a procurement contract. Yep. You're pulling a procurement contract out with a bunch of discount schedules, pricing schedules. Those are not live tables. That is a static PDF. And just Excel just pukes on it when you start trying to manipulate it. And Firefly just crushes comparatively. It's still got a ways to go, but it was very surprising and disappointing all in one. So.
Thank you, Cheryl. Let's start. We'll round the 5 more minutes, Tim, and then Raymond.
Yeah, I think that, to echo what was just said, I think it's way too early to declare winners. For those of us who are old enough, IBM was the winner, then DEC was the winner, then Apple was the winner, then Microsoft was the winner, then Google was the winner. Now Microsoft is back in it. Now OpenAI is the winner. And even just within a market, if you remember search, for those of us who were really into it, there were several winners before Google came along. And Google took, I want to say, 8 years before they came up with their advertising model. But they won the search right away after both AltaVista and Yahoo were dominant search engines. Completely dominant in the marketplace for a while and had huge brand names, what seemed huge at the time because it was very early. I doubt 3 people in the world can name AltaVista outside of groups like us. And I doubt many people realize it.
My 10 megabyte hard drive had an index file from AltaVista that was about 50K.
Yeah, and I doubt many people even realize. Well, these days people don't even know who Yahoo is anymore. But I doubt even people who recognize Yahoo realize it was the #1 search engine in the world by a lot for a long time. So I just think you really do have to stay open. Microsoft's got an enormous distribution advantage, and that usually wins in the end. It just almost always wins. You can be the greatest product in the world, but the people who have the dominant distribution channels almost always crush everybody else. And so I wouldn't, I believe that it's possible if somebody else does much better at PDS and things, they're going to do fine. But what will probably happen is Microsoft will just buy them. Because the other thing people forget is Microsoft didn't build Word or Excel or PowerPoint. They bought them all. And I think they'll just keep buying up things and putting them into Copilot. And by the way, just another stat, we have a very pedestrian white shoe law firm that I work for. I mean, you talk about the most conservative people, super smart, but super conservative and super slow cultural change. We have about 40% usage of the AI tools right now, which is astonishing. I never thought we would see that much this quickly. But we have, a fair number of smart young people. They all use OpenAI outside of work, and so they've been dying for it inside. And as I said, a lot of the usage is through the Bing, which is basically the same as OpenAI, or it looks the same and feels the same. But a lot of them are also using PDF summaries and other things, and the early messages are it's doing okay. So that's all I can tell you. It's anecdotal, but that's my experience so far.
Great. Thanks, Tim. Go ahead, Raymond.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for that. There was one question I had about the Echo. When you mentioned, like, when you were asking it questions about within the organization about personal information, and it didn't give it out. Did that have to be set manually, or was that something that was built in? And I think that question's for Adam, actually.
Yeah, is Adam may have dropped off?
No, I'm still here. Say that again.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It was about the PII. Like when you asked it personal information, it didn't give it out. Was that because it wasn't in the documentation, the personal information that you screened it previously?
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't an adapter or something.
Well, I think a
No,
question
no,
was,
yeah, no.
what is Paul Byers' phone number, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
But exactly, there's no additional PII filter or anything. It was just it's coded to just tell you to talk to the team if you ask for information that isn't there.
Oh, okay. And I think there was another question about model consistency with that. Like you pretty much stick with the same models, right? Because but skip that. The other thing was I've been following Claude. They're doing this model context protocol. Was it someone spoke about that earlier? Was it John that spoke about model context protocol? I know a lot of the dev folks are excited about that. And the reason why that's applicable is which I believe someone brought up earlier with the PDF tables. You have one model that can do PDF tables like nobody's business, and then you have another model that struggles. And it seems to me with MCP, you can put together, agents that could utilize different models for different sections or different tasks within the overall. And I think that's the direction we're going to be going. And also as a developer, I kind of feel sad about the already appearance of dominance, I guess on the enterprise level that's okay, but still from a developer's point of view, or someone who likes to turn the gears and stuff, it's like you're going to go out there and they're going to say, do you know Microsoft? Do you know OpenAI? And if you're not fluent in both of those or either of those, then they're going to be like, oh, okay, you're going to have to get a Microsoft certification, or you're going to have to get an open, with no thoughts of like, there's models coming out daily, and they have different capabilities. And so it makes me sad that the possibility that developers will be constrained by the market rather than being exploratory.
But Raymond, remember, that's the big boring businesses in the middle of the pie. All this interesting stuff is on the edge. Where all those creative developers are with those bleeding edge tools here. So thanks, everyone. I think the purpose of the Learning Lab is for us to continue to learn. We're now moving, I think, year to year 3 of this. The learning curve steepness hasn't even slowed, and this was yet another useful help. So Microsoft Copilot, lots of different features here. We have a webinar on Thursday. If you'd like to get the spreadsheet now, send it to us. The last thing I would just say on that, for companies though, realize that many of your vendors are putting in and charging incremental features for those AI features, even though they're SaaS products. So you have Slack, you want AI, that's additional $10 per employee. You have Salesforce, you want AI, that's additional $500 per employee. You have Microsoft, you want AI features, that's additional $300 per employee plus programming on it. So this is non-trivial cost when you start looking at 100,000, 10,000, 100,000 employees here. So it's important cost element. Think of it more like BlackBerry power tool than a browser to give everyone. So thanks everyone. We'll see you next week and we're back on track.